listening to the Otasso Outdoors
We
Podcast.
have to do it together. Yeah. Yeah. I love this hat.
All right. Do.
Oh, am I supposed to put my headphones on now?
Yeah, but you missed your do-do-dos.
Did you fart while you were out there?
It followed me in.
I was
Right,
gonna
it
say.
lingered.
Musty.
Yeah, Rita's.
Chipotle did me dirty.
We've got fire.
Dude, I'm
it's
serious.
straight
It
up
was
lingered.
I was out there and it followed me in.
Yeah,
I tried to cut it. Like I did a little spin while I was out there, hoping it would just kind of disperse.
cut it.
Yeah.
Goofed up.
If you fart, you got to cut it. Like you got to.
Yeah, you didn't clench hard enough.
I'm just glad I didn't poop my pants after the way I've been feeling for a couple days. Ugh.
Anyway,
We're back. We're in the same outfits we did last week.
I can taste it.
what do you know about that? Guys, welcome back to the Otasso Outdoors Podcast. I'm Caleb. I'm your host. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Reed Robinson
Howdy.
and Hunter Grishke.
Ew.
For those of you who are joining us for the first time, you're likely to find one of three segments. Segment number one is What You Got, Buddy? That's where we bring articles, headlines in, and we discuss them at length. Segment number two.
Segment number 2 is our Spotlight series where we search our network of friends and family in the outdoors industry. We bring them down to the bunker, have a conversation with them, get to know who they are and what they're doing, and bring you guys along for the ride. Segment number 3.
Segment number 3 is our head-to-head game show series where we pick a topic, ask a bunch of questions to each other with a quiz master, see who knows more, and we crown a winner at the end.
Today is none of the above. Guys, today I'm a little emotional with this one. I'm coming to you with a heavy heart saying that I think we're about to call it quits because I've lost all hope in the Natural Resource Commission and I've lost all hope in the Michigan Hunter. We've tried our best to
Time to sell the
convince
gear.
and educate people. Yep. So there is a 8-foot by 8-foot bunker up for sale. If one of you guys would like to come dig it out of the ground.
I will help you. Bring us the report. Scouting report. What'd you find?
My goodness, guys.
What'd you go and see?
Okay, so first off, for those of you who follow us and watch our stuff, I posted a video updating you on, I think it was mid-November, updating you on population numbers through the Michigan DNR website.
Yeah, that hurt to
Mhm.
see that statistic.
Well, you'll be happy to know that it hasn't got any better.
Consistency is key.
So I posted a video though, and I just want to caveat. In that video, I read the report numbers, and I said, "That's disgusting. Shame on all of you." Now, when I say shame on all of you, let's unpack the you a little bit. Because when I say shame on you, I'm not talking about the guy who's gone out and killed 4 does and 1 buck. I'm not talking about the guy who's down in southwest Michigan who had his whole herd wiped out from EHD. I'm not talking about the guy who is in the UP who hasn't seen a deer all season.
So sorry, bud.
1 deer in 2 months.
This does not.
It was a giant 82-pounder.
None of it applies to you. And if you had a brain and you read into, and not only did you read the caption, you would know that it does not apply to you. But the amount of dumbasses in the comments that get fired up over a 15-second video without taking 2 seconds to seek context is exactly what's wrong with our society today. The person I am talking to is the guy who goes out in the woods and he kills a 4-point, 6-point, or a spike, and that is it.
Or heck, an 8-point.
Yeah, a small 8 point and does nothing to help the doe population.
Points mean nothing.
Let's say immature, because there are giant 6 points
Yes.
and 4 points. I had to throw that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Immature,
you're right,
very,
you're right.
very small, immature deer.
Yes, there are 8.
Yeah.
There are 8 points that are 10 years old, and they look
Yes.
like a 2.5-year-old, but they're
Yes.
just old.
Yeah.
That is who that video is directed towards. And for all of you that are getting in the comments saying meat is mean, blah, 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 you're idiots. Move on. Do something better with your lives. One thing I will say, there is one thing I've noticed. There's 2 categories of people that are in our comments. Category 1 are like-minded bow hunters that are still that have the same mindset as us, and they're very proficient in the way they describe their words. They're echoing what we're saying, all of that. You also have a new demographic of people coming in who are genuinely interested and they have questions about it. And so they're inquisitive about it. So they're coming into the comments and they're asking, like, out of a genuine place, they're asking us. And then on this side, you have a whole freaking demographic that I didn't notice that are just coming out of the swamps and the trailer parks.
Woof.
For throats, straight throats.
And these guys, I think the average grammatical error in the comment is around 4 to 5 in every comment. I can't even.
Can you bring up the one you read me before? It was priceless.
I can't, it's so hard to even piece some of these together. But it's
these guys sound like they could be on Kill Tony.
These guys sound.
Can we like stitch some of these comments across the?
These guys sound like they're on meth.
What was what was the dickhead one? That was so funny.
Oh, that was my favorite. That was from my. Yeah, this is my favorite from today. Hold on just a second. I got to scroll a ways through all the other dumbass comments. Okay. Who you to judge, dickhead? Maybe people only have few days to hunt and the spikes first to show. Shame on you! Exclamation point. Thank you, FF guy _4491. Enjoy your life.
Why
And
use
your double
lot word when little word do trick?
Oh. So with that being said,
Like, okay, Squanto, thank you.
he is not coming on What the Fuck.
That'd be
We're gonna have to have an interpreter.
really interesting.
Like, oh, he's Down syndrome. So sorry.
Oh my gosh, that makes me think of that one scene from Bedtime Stories where he's just like, "Man, come down from mountain, bring fire and wind."
Oh, I brought wind in. William Knifeman.
That's what it is.
All right,
Yeah, low operating level here. We're doing.
I just like it's
Hey, I'm sure he's a nice guy.
okay. Here's the thing. I think this separates tiers of people in our world today. If I'm scrolling through online and I see somebody post a video of something that I might not agree with or something that's kind of opposing to how my views are or whatever, I'm going to watch the video and then I'm going to shoot them a message. And I'm just going to say, "Hey guys, love what you're doing. Don't agree with this. Just want to have a conversation about it." Rather than saying,
Dickhead.
"Who you to judge, dickhead?" in the comments, you know? And that's where I think it's
the accent for me immediately.
Oh, no. No, okay.
Immediately.
The best part of it is he was worried the comment was going to get flagged by Instagram, so he put a period after every letter of dick. So it was dick, D period, I period, C period, K period, head.
That's funny.
But,
Hey, I received that, brother. I received that.
but that's
With me.
where I'm saying though is I feel like at least the people, and if you're a gun hunter, like this is not directed at you, but most of the people that are getting fired up in our comments and that seem like they have an IQ of a potato are on the side that supports killing what you want because it's legal under the guise of it's legal, let them do it.
Hunting a couple days a year, shooting whatever steps out.
The amount, okay,
Yeah.
so here's my thing. The amount of people that have commented something along the lines of the spike's the first one to step out, so I'm going to shoot it. Or every time I sit, I only see bucks. 6-to-1 doe ratio.
To be fair,
Or-
we did talk about this beforehand, and like I've had sits this year that I see either only buck or way more buck than doe.
Yeah.
I got trail camera sets that only see buck.
I analyzed this. Do you think it's because the places that they're going for gun opener, like Thanksgiving weekend, is still on that tail end of rut, so that's why they're only seeing bucks, is because the does aren't cruising and they're just in the wrong spots?
It depends on your property, right?
Right.
There's buck bedding, there's doe bedding, there's feeding common areas. Where are you hunting? Like, what areas are you focusing on? So
don't know.
you know, it really just depends
Yeah.
where you're at.
So I would say to all the people in the comments that are getting fired up over a 15-second video, if you could wait, that's a TJ Flag reference. Shout out TJ Flag. If you could, you would. And what he said, did I do it right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
No. For the people that are in the comments, you're watching a 15-second video and you're getting fired up over that. A, that's your first problem. Second of all, go listen to an hour and a half video where we break it down piece by piece rather than just taking a 15-second video. That would be my challenge to anybody before you take 10 minutes, 15 minutes out of your day, waste 10 to 15 minutes out of your day piecing together a comment that's going to not get read, that's going to boost our algorithm. Seek some context.
I don't think that's going to help anything from their perspective, though, because like they're, we're pretty well set in our ways, and it takes quite a bit of an argument for us to defer off of where we stand. And for them, it's like,
if I have somebody who's genuinely like putting up a professional argument opposing what I'm saying, I am all ears. But when you say, who you to judge, dickhead, you really want like
I really want
that's
to put that
like
on a t-shirt.
you want me to like you want to talk
Who
about
you to judge, dickhead?
you want to talk about debating a rock?
What I'm saying is like, the odds of listening to our podcast, okay, like you're going to see that and you're going to be like, these guys suck. So you're going to go in and listen to everything. And the whole time you're going to be like, that's bullcrap. There's no way. No, I don't think. And they don't realize the reality of what I hunt in. They don't think this. They don't know that, blah, blah, blah.
All while they're sitting down to pee. I'm sorry. I'm really fired up about all of this because you guys aren't in the comments. You're not getting blown up all day long.
Okay, so
dumbasses.
Here's where we're at. Is like we're getting pulled away from like the reality of what we're trying to get at. Is like, these are kind of like the bottom 1% of the culture problem. When the reality is like the majority of people I think are probably pretty rational in this. And if you could really sit down and explain what like we're going to talk about today. What is the legislative problem with Michigan deer?
Yeah.
That nobody knows about. Like, if you tell even like the lowest 1% of the FUDs out there that are willing to argue us and like call us dickhead, like
DICK.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. Like, you probably don't understand how the legislative process of the NRC works, and you're going to learn a little bit today. So if you can take some time to just listen and hear out, hey, here's how we actually make some changes within the Michigan deer management process or the Michigan deer management plan.
He's probably damn good at putting up drywall, though.
I'd hire him. I hate drywall.
Maybe painters. Those guys are exposed to a lot of fumes. Anyway, I think bottom 1% is generous.
You reckon?
Yes. in Michigan's, I've realized this in a real way by seeing the comments. I genuinely think it is a maybe 30 to 40% of Michigan's deer hunter population are set in that way because if that's how they were raised, and they're not willing to deviate from it.
It's possible. I just think I think if you were to present a logical argument to the majority of Michigan deer hunters, they all be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm talking about the guy that's going to clap back on Instagram and sit there and start like shooting shots and name calling. It's like, okay, whatever. Like if you have enough time while you're pooping to do that, or just like doom scrolling to clap back at us, it's like odds of me swaying your opinion are probably pretty low.
Well, here's the thing.
Odds of me living in your head rent free is high.
I think that like majority of these people making these comments, whatever it may be, they're just getting offended by what we're trying to say.
That video is a direct attack at them.
Yeah, it's an attack, and human nature is you get defensive when you're getting attacked. So if these people just took a few things and applied it to themselves, they actually might see some more success or might actually kill some bigger deer. Will they have to pass some deer? Absolutely. Will they have to hunt more instead of maybe 1 or 2 days a year and actually put in time and effort? Absolutely.
What if they're not able to, though?
If they're not able to, it depends on your situation.
Yeah.
But caveat to that, if that is your situation, don't chime in.
See, I like that.
If you've
lost your First Amendment. No.
I have absolutely no problem with someone going out 1 or 2 days a year, harvesting what they want to harvest with their tag. I have no problem with that. But if they're going to complain about not seeing big deer, or Michigan doesn't have big deer, whatever it may be, that's not right in my opinion.
I don't think it has anything to do with that demographic complaining about not seeing big deer. I think it's that demographic is complaining about people saying we have to stop shooting small bucks and we need to focus more on does. I think that, from what I've noticed, it's none of them care. They genuinely don't care about antlers. Like they're just like, oh, cool, can't eat the antlers. So I don't think for them it's a matter of like, oh, I'm not seeing any big deer and they only hunt 2 days out of the year. I think it's shut up, don't tell me what I can do. And that's we've talked about that with OK.
It's getting offended.
Yeah, exactly. How dare you tell me how I can legally harvest an animal? And that demographic, like that's why I said I think it's bigger than what you think it is. My guess would be is it's a 30-30-40 split. You've got the upper 30%, which are guys like us who see it, we understand it, we know herd management, we know conservation, and then you also have a 30 percentile that's kind of in the middle. Yep. You know, you've got the bottom of that 30% don't understand it.
I think that's larger.
But they have an open, okay, so 30, 40, 30.
Yeah, I think the middle's larger because they're teetering on.
Okay, so let's say maybe even bigger. So maybe correct myself. So maybe 30, 40, 30 or bigger.
Yep.
It just seems like such a baseless claim to make. Like where are you pulling?
It's being told not to do something you want to do.
No, I'm just saying like to throw a 30-40% on there. It's like where are you pulling that number from?
It's in the harvest numbers. It's in the harvest numbers, and it's in the in the percentage. Yeah. It's in the percentage of like the interactions we're getting on videos that are getting hundreds of thousands of views. And when there's 200 comments on a video and 40 to over half of those comments are shut the hell up, cry about it, I'm going to kill what I want, meat is meat, can't eat the antlers, how dare you.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a way bigger I don't think it's a loud minority.
I just don't think I don't think the people that do agree with this are going to comment. I think you just majority see the people that are like pissed off and like, ooh, they get offended, so they comment. But the people that are like, yeah, darn straight, nobody like,
they're typically not going to comment.
Yeah, so it's like I just think you have an influx of like.
There's a lot of people that do though. They'll reshare it, they'll like it, they'll comment, they'll say, yeah, this is a big problem. And there's even we get guys that chime in from other states, like talking about problems that they had that were solved by their NRCs and stuff like that.
So then how do we do it? NRC.
All right. So this is also the other portion of why I'm extremely discouraged is, unlike some people, we want to get more involved than we are now. So not only have we built a platform where we're working on educating people, we want to take it a step further. So we've gotten involved with different organizations and going to the Natural Resource Commission. If you guys haven't heard about the Natural Resource Commissions, it'd be very interesting for you to stop this episode and go back to listen to our episode with John Dirtka with Purely Michigan Spearfishing. He single-handedly swayed the Natural Resource Commission to legalize underwater spearfishing. So shout out to John on that. He's doing big things. This was news to us last year because we talked about deer population issues, all of this stuff, and we assumed it was on the DNR level. It's not. So there is a board of 7 commissioners called the Natural Resource Commission. There's 7 commissioners. Those 7 commissioners can vote to enact changes, adjustments, new orders, taking away things to our herd management, whatever it may be. It can be in regards to anything. It can be in regards to fishing, lands, wildlife, deer habitat, deer management, all of that stuff. And this Natural Resources Commission meets monthly at different locations all around the state. And so it just so happens that a lot of the meetings actually end up right down the road from us here. So last week I went to the Natural Resource Commission meeting, started at 9:30 and wrapped up about at 1 o'clock. And I sat there the whole time and listened to everything that they had to say. And I mainly went because they were talking about deer harvest numbers. So first thing that I will bring up is back in November, we talked about the deer harvest numbers for Michigan. And this is an update. So we're talking a 1 month later. So we're winding down the season here. Here's Michigan's harvest update numbers. So for Michigan, right now, we are at 155,659 antlered deer have been harvested. And this is just reported. Keep
Antlered?
I was going to ask that. Just reported.
Antlered. This is only what has been reported.
Okay.
So 155,659 have been reported. I'm sorry. That is incorrect. 155,659 are antlered. 109,216 are antlerless. So we are roughly 45,000 doe shy. So 45,000 more bucks have been killed than doe. Now, in their slideshow, which I believe this is public information that has been listed out on their website, they went through 9 to, and we'll hit every single one of these because these are fascinating to me. There's a bunch of different slides and everything. The disclaimer with those numbers, the 155,000 to the 109, is they had a slide at that Natural Resource Commission meeting where they broke down the antlered versus antlerless harvests. And then they went even further and they broke down antlerless harvest. And there's a graph within the antlerless harvest. 7,455 of the antlerless harvest were button bucks. 1,236 reported were bucks that had antlers with less than 3 inches. 416 were bucks that had shed their antlers. So between those 3 categories, that's an additional almost 10,000 bucks that have been killed and reported of male species, even though they're considered antlerless.
Yep.
So what you got to do is you got to add 10,000 to that number and then take away 10,000.
So it's like 160 and
we're at 160.
99,000.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So 160,000 bucks have been harvested and reported, and 99,000. So we're still actually, I believe, in the same boat we were a month ago. No,
It's
pretty much the same ratio, yeah.
It's gotten a little better.
by what? 700?
No, because it was literally like a 1-to-2 ratio for a while. Like it was every one doe, 2 buck were getting killed.
Yeah, it was. Well, we were at $169,000, I believe.
Nice.
I'm sorry, we were at 120 something thousand bucks, $121,000, and then 60 something thousand doe.
Right.
So that's a 66,000 spread.
Right.
We're at a 66,000 spread right now.
Well, yes, but the ratio, like, it was 1-to-2, and now it's closer to a like 1.5 to. Or it's like 1 to 1.5.
Which is still
it's
terrible.
It's still terrible. Like I'd love to see a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1.
You guys want to feel really bad? So I did a deep dive study into it after I saw those numbers, and I looked at every other state in the Midwest. So Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. So all of our neighboring states. And I looked at their buck to doe ratio harvests on their website. Anybody can go look it up. They may have changed in the last 3 weeks, but when I checked them 3 weeks ago, they were all dead nuts. Every single state was equal. Wisconsin, 155 to 155. Ohio, 75 to 75. Indiana, they were all equal buck to doe harvests. Right there. There it is. Now, where it gets really, really interesting. So at this NRC meeting, we went through every single aspect of deer management. They talked heavily about the UP, which is really, really fascinating to me. They said that the deer herd in the UP, so shout out to all you Upers up there. We know the wolves are there. They just won't acknowledge it. But also, they talked about how the deer herd in the UP is so imbalanced as far as buck to doe ratio goes that the problem they're running into is these bucks are hitting 3 different breeding cycles. So during the rut, they are killing themselves because think about it from this perspective. A doe doesn't go into heat and then just go out of heat. A doe goes into heat and then she's bred. So a buck is going to find her eventually and breed her. But if you have a plethora of does everywhere that are all in heat, a buck is going to breed how many times? As many as he can find, right? So the problem they have in the UP is these, starting when the rut kicks in late October, early November, these bucks are running themselves to death all the way until December. And then they're so beat down when December hits, they get killed by the winter because the snow comes in up there and the snow comes in with a vengeance and they die. And they said the amount of deer death that they have in the UP, buck death specifically, because of that herd imbalance is astronomical.
So that's because guys aren't taking does in the UP.
Yes, but it's also because I think it probably they won't acknowledge it, but the wolves have been bad. We know the wolves up there are bad. So you take both of those, it's a double whammy.
Yeah, I know the wolves aren't gonna like. The wolves aren't gonna the wolves are gonna indiscriminately kill. Doesn't matter if it's a buck doe. Fawns, they'll kill more fawns, but it's like they're not going to be like, oh,
yeah, but
it's got antlers, I'm not going to attack.
But
that.
A doe that's been able to chill and do her thing for 3 months is going to be fine. But the buck that has been running nonstop for 3 months, who's just dead dog tired and his energy reserves are drained.
Yep.
You get a pack of 6 wolves on a buck, they're toast.
Right.
Which that just doesn't help the herd ratio either. So they didn't go into specifics and whatnot there. That was one big thing that was very, very fascinating to see. They talked about license sales. 1.2 million licenses were sold in Michigan. 25,000 of them were out of state, non-resident tags.
Yeah, because people don't want to come here to hunt.
There is no, and yet
why would they?
Yet we have some of the most beautiful public land in the country.
Why would guys want to come here and hunt and waste their time?
Okay, license sales. Cumulative number of people obtaining a deer kill tag in Michigan. 597,000 people acquired a deer tag, which was a 1.4% increase. Now, is that's number of tags sold? So is that from more people like me, like I went out and I bought 6 doe tags this year. I've only filled 3. So I've got, are more people buying more doe tags because they know they can? I don't know. There's definitely a decline though. Like they showed over the years, like the peak of licensed sales was in 1997. And it is decreased significantly since then. Harvest trends, definitely way more antlered than antlerless. Now here's what's interesting. Look at this graph. See this graph? So this is antlered versus antlerless. Look at in 2021. Look at that spike in doe harvest versus buck harvest. That's the closest that line has been since 2008. 2008, there was actually a time where there were more doe harvested than buck. So this was fascinating to me. And then this year, look at that as a massive gap.
Do you think that's an after COVID surge of get out in the woods and do your part, or what do you think that was from?
I agree. I think those were the COVID hunters that were just going out. Yep. They wanted something recreational to do, so they were going to go try hunting, and that's probably why there were more does killed at that point.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, this was wild. So harvest reporting statistic trends. In 2024, for opening weekend, there was a deer killed every 2.5. I believe it was every 2.5. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, that was the reporting. It took people only like 2.5 minutes to report a deer harvest. So they really, really talked about how easy that system was to use, which was really, really great.
It is easy. It's just right on your phone. It's an app. Boom, go on, report, done.
So. Now, this was also fast. So change in harvest numbers for 2024. The Upper Peninsula, so the UP, had a 16.3. This is compared to 2023. So 2023 to 2024. The Upper Peninsula had a 16.3% increase in harvest numbers opposed to last year.
Okay.
So for all the UP guys, like explain that one. If you say there's no deer, it's a 16% increase in harvest. Northern Lower Peninsula had a 0.78% increase in harvest numbers. The Southern Lower Peninsula had a 6.58% decrease in deer harvest, which leaves us with an overall decrease of 2.65%. That's how much we're down compared to last year. So 2% decrease in harvests. Mostly what's contributing to that is you've got these 2 counties down here. That's where the most EHD was hit.
Yeah.
EHD was really bad down there in the southwest of Michigan.
Which, if I remember correctly, no, we just had a couple like real cold weeks here that should have killed off
the midge.
Yeah, the midge should have killed off most of the EHD, so we shouldn't have too much of an issue with that. That was a pretty brief run-in.
All right, so our next update is harvest by season. So shout out you bow hunters. There were 76,873 deer killed during archery season. The Independence Hunt was 440. Liberty Hunt, 5,326. Early Antlerless, 3,441. That's where a big problem lies. And that's where I'm really interested to see when these final numbers come out between early and late antlerless, how many deer are actually getting harvested. Because we're still, in Michigan, we are still a firearm state through and through. We're talking 135,000 deer were shot in firearm season. Harvest by license. So the combo license was 65% of the reported harvests. Antlerless, so like a plain old doe tag, was only 24%. And then we've got just a plain 8% is just like a normal deer tag. This is what really, really fascinated me, and it hasn't changed over the past 3 years. So Reed and I talked about this on the phone earlier. So this is antler points, an antler point average. So you've got 100% total. 19.46% of bucks reported were 10 points or higher. 49.63% of bucks reported were 8 points or bigger. 8 points only. 17.74% of bucks reported were 6 points. 8.32% of bucks reported were 4 points. And 4.84% of bucks were spikes, so 2 points. Which is really interesting because that means a large demographic of like almost 50% of those bucks harvested were 8 points. So 49, I mean, we're talking almost 70% of bucks harvested were APRs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can talk about that briefly. So, like, part of the conversation in June was an APR, like a $1 APR state. How much is that going to help things when 70% of the bucks that are killed are APRs? That leaves 30% that aren't.
I think if you do just an APR state, it's not going to change a whole lot. You know, you're going to get that 20 to 30% more bigger deer getting killed. But I think if it was a $1 APR, I think it would force people to be a little bit more choosy. But then again, like, the demographic that we're talking about probably doesn't care. They're going to be, yep, that's legal, kill.
Yeah.
What it does tell me is that there's a lot of 2.5 and 3.5 year old buck getting killed.
Right.
Like, I would say, I'd argue more so 1.5, 2.5.
You mean the small basket rack 8s?
You can have a 1.5-year-old 8 point.
Oh yeah, you can have a 70. You can, and that's why I think it's such a large percentage. You can have a 70, less than that. You can have a 50-inch 8 point. Yeah. You can have a 150-inch 8 point.
Yeah. So if APR isn't it, how do you restrict that? Because it's not like
you can't.
One buck.
That's what it is. You just can't.
It's just literally $1. Yeah. I mean, think about it. If Michigan becomes, and that's where I wish there was a stat of, and I believe there was, if I can look, there was a stat of how many people filled their entire combo tag. Antlerless combo.
And the season is still technically not over.
Right. And so it can even change.
Yeah.
Because there is some kind of percentage that we saw where it said that only a very low, like 20 percentile of people with their combo tag actually filled it with $2.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where it's a small enough number. I mean, we're pretty much with the caveat to a small percentage of the state. I think we're pretty much a $1 state right now. So the problem is nobody's killing does though.
Yeah.
They're killing their $1 or their $2. And that's, I mean, I'm guilty of it here. I think it was in 2020. I killed $2 and that was it. I'm like I need my one deer kind of thing. And until I really, really started peeling back the layers of it and understanding it with an open mind, as a lot of people should have, like, you gotta understand like where it's coming from. Here's where it gets really discouraging. This is something that was revealed to me at the meeting. I talked to two gentlemen that are quite a bit older than I am, and they've been doing this and going to these meetings for 20 or 30 years, is what they told me. One of them is very high up in the National Deer Association, and then there's another one who is heavily involved in Sportsmen's Against Hunger and Michigan Sportsmen's Against Hunger. And they both talked in front of these 7 commissioners at the meeting. They brought up some very, very valid points. And specifically, the gentleman that I talked to from the National Deer Association said there's 2 major problems we're dealing with in the state of Michigan. Because my question for him was just straight up. I said, we've created a platform, and we are doing everything we can to try to educate our generation on, like, the right way to go about doing it. That's what we've been trying to do. And I said, what can we be doing more to help this? And he had he kind of chuckled. He said, I've been doing this for 30 years. He goes, and nothing has changed. And I said, why? And he looked at me and he pointed at the table. And that that panel of 7 people, and he goes, because the problem is that those 7 people are appointed by the government. Those 7 people are not voted in by the general public. Those 7 people get a paycheck, and they're appointed by our governor. And if you look at the governor of Michigan right now, she doesn't give 2 rips about conservation. None of that matters. And so the people that are appointed are not strategically placed. They're not picked. They're appointed. And he said that every single one of them have failed us as Michigan conservationists. There was a huge meeting in June where most of you guys have seen, we've done multiple podcasts on it. There was like 15 line items, I think, that the deer management initiative brought forward in front of them to change Michigan to like a $1 state. There were so many things. There was like 15 line items, and all the important ones got shot down. And I believe there was 3 or 4 that got passed. And so he said he has been in meetings where there's hundreds of people that are shouting at these guys. And he goes, they're so set in their ways. He said he's worried that nothing's going to change. And so really what he encouraged us to do is use our platform to communicate to you guys that it's not the DNR. The shoulders of the hunter, I mean, we can do a little bit, but we're really not going to put a dent in it. At the end of the day, he said the boomer generation and the Gen Xers, like Reed said earlier, those 2 generations are the biggest problem, is what he said, as far as. So if you're in that and you're a conservationist, that's not geared at you. It's the ones that just don't care. He said,
I want to clarify one thing on that statement. The boomers and the Gen Xers are not a problem in general. They are the culture problem, the mindset culture problem that we are talking about.
Yes.
They're not the problem. They're the reasons that we hunt. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
It's time to pass the torch.
Yes.
We want to see some big deer. We want to see some better deer management. We have a problem. And
the deer management.
What we've been doing, the deer management has not got us to a place that's good.
Yes.
Everybody else is excelling past us. We were talking about the mean score of deer in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, like all bigger than us
by a long shot.
Oh, what was Ohio?
139.
139 was their average.
Is their average buckshot. Michigan is 117.
It's a big deal.
I'm surprised it's even that high in Michigan.
We talked about it. You talk about it. You have one kid that shoots a 190, and that 190 makes up for 6 points. But anyway, so thank you for stopping me there. Based on what the National Deer Association is saying, and they are the experts when it comes to deer management and deer herd studies and stuff, they are saying that the older generation is the problem that is contributing to the culture problem in the current state of our deer herd.
So there are 7 people. You can find their names and contact information on michigan.gov. And they read as follows. Mark David Anthony. He was appointed January 7th, 22. His term expires on December 31st of 25. You can get a hold of him at anthonydave473@gmail.com. He's from Bark River, if you're in that general area. Tom Baird, he's the chair.
Just ended his term.
2
weeks ago.
Well, it's officially over 12/31 of this year. You can still call and reprimand him at 517-290-6647. Or Tom Baird 51, that's BAIRD @gmail.com. David Kozad, he's from Bay City area. His term will be ending this year as well.
He is currently up for re-election. They can run for 8 years, or they can be on the commission for 8 years. So that's a long freaking time.
That's a long time.
Bay City, 989-529-1659. You can get a hold of him. Pete Eardley. I'm going to go Eardley. Grand Rapids, 616-970-4664. His term will end on December 31st of 27. He was appointed January 1st of 24 this year. He's the new kid on the block. David Nyberg is the Marquette, 906-250-6339. appointed in October of 18, reappointed in February of 23. His term expires in December of 26. And then there's our beloved John Walters, who is a good friend of our friend John Durka. And this guy actually is a killer. He does good work. I have spoken with him personally on the phone. You can get a hold of him at 231-313-0057 or john.walters.8 as in the number, foot as in FT, 4WT at gmail.com. And his term is ending in 2026. John Walters is a really good guy. You can call him and he will get a hold of you.
Yes.
He will talk. If you propose an idea to him, he's like, tell you what, I think you should go to the NRC meetings and you should talk about that. I think we need to get more of that information out in front of people. Because I think he realizes, you said that speaking with him, there's 2 people on the board that are pretty legit and the rest are Democratic anglers.
Yes, from what I've heard is, and this is all coming from people, as I said, this is somebody with the National Deer Association who has been, he looked at me in the eye and said, I've been doing this 30 years. He said, I've seen people talking about exactly what you guys are talking about, and I've seen nothing happen. And he says, it is all because of these 7 individuals here. Now, out of 7, to make something happen, you have to have 4 votes to 3 votes. You have to have, or more. You just have to have a majority. So 4 votes out of 7, that's all it takes. That's all it takes to make change with the regulation of what we're having. And what is that going to take? It's going to take conversation. It's going to take talking to them. And if you go to these Natural Resource Commission meetings, you can go right on the NRC, and it's through michigan.gov, and you can see right where these meetings are at. They're all over the state, and it's monthly. They pick the dates. You can sign up ahead of time. You can bring a proposal to them, and you can talk for 5 minutes. And you have the ears of all 7 of these individuals. If you show up the day of, you can still sign up to talk. If they have enough slots, it's 3 minutes, and you can have the ears of all 7 individuals. From what I've heard from credible sources who have been in this arena for a very long time, is most of these guys have set mindsets, and they're not willing to deviate. And I asked one of the guys there, I said, why do they not budge? Why don't they have an open mind about stuff like this? And he looked at me and he said, because they're scared. And so my follow-up question to that would be, who are they scared of? Are they scared of the 597,000 hunters in Michigan the 350,000 hunters in Michigan that actually care about the deer population? Or are they scared of PR problems and making changes because they don't want to be in the spotlight? They don't want to be under the microscope of higher powers.
I feel like this would be such a simple thing to do. Like, it'd be such a simple switch to say, like, hey, we're changing Michigan deer. Like, why would you not want to be involved in that? Why would you not want to say, all right, Midwest, we're switching things up. We're doing something crazy. We're calling some, like, Hail Marys in because we got to do something. You serve for 8 years. And if I remember correctly, these dudes, like, it's not like they're full-time getting tons of government money from this. It's like they're just serving in this role. And
they're still appointed, though.
They're still appointed.
There is always strategy to appointments.
There's
you look
a higher power.
You look at
There's
what Donald Trump is doing right now. When you appoint people, you're appointing people strategically. I was told that all 7 of these guys are anglers. None of them really care too much about deer.
But I don't think it's like these guys aren't.
Who the governor appoints them. So I want to know why and how Governor Whitmer is specifically appointing these individuals. How is she making that choice?
I just don't think like that these guys' livelihoods and like feeding their family relies on this is what I'm saying. So it's like they shouldn't have anything to be scared of in the sense
they're not young. These guys are all in their 50s to 80s. They're
right.
They're not young.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, why would you not want to make a splash? Why would you not want to be the guy that was like, I made a really big change because I thought something had to happen.
Exactly. I'm reverting back to my last question of who has them by the balls.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day that we're going to try to have on here in January, and he was discussing, he owns an auto body shop, and he is like deep into deer management. Like this dude, last year he killed 28 does single-handedly. This year he's already up to like 16, and we still got late season to go. And he was like, dude, I would sit in on meeting after meeting after meeting with all these big insurance companies in the auto body industry, like just hounding the DNR. Kill more deer, whatever it takes. Antlers, no antlers, like, mow them down with Gatling guns, kill them all, because the amount of payouts we have to make in Michigan on deer is insane. And I think those are some of the big players that are like chirping in the back pockets, possibly. I'm not saying that these people are taking money, but it's like, I think insurance companies are big players saying, whatever it takes, kill more deer. Don't restrict any deer being killed. Don't restrict that in any way more. Like $3, $2 doe licenses, kill them all.
There has to be some level of compromise and or corruption, no matter what level of politics you're in.
Oh, I mean,
because this is not like the NRC. This is not just some fun little board. This is an extension of the government, and they're appointed individuals by the government. And so here's the thing. If I've got a guy telling me that he's seen multiple arguments that are just incredible over the last 30 years and they've done nothing about it, what are they going to change now? Like, what's going to make them change? And so I even to put this into perspective. So when we're sitting there in this meeting, this was a pretty lightly attended meeting. There's maybe 25, 30 people in the room. And I'm looking around in the other chairs, and it was fun because I was looking at other people trying to figure out, like, what are you here for? And I was the youngest in the room by far. And there's a lot of older guys in there. And I'm looking at a couple of these guys like, are you just here for fun? Is this something you enjoy? And there was one guy I was watching. He gets up, and he was the third one to talk, and he sits down, and big dude, like 6'7", 6'6", all of 350 pounds, like big dude, sits down, says he's a farmer out of Saginaw, Michigan. And I've never seen a man that size on the brink of tears. You could hear the pain, and you could hear the emotion in his voice when he looked at those 7 individuals up there and said, I am losing $30,000 to $40,000 of my income every year to crop damage from these deer. And that is after killing 172 of them off of my farm personally. And he looked at I believe it was David Kozak and Tom Baird. He looked at him directly in the eye, and he goes, how would you guys feel if you were in my shoes? And I reached into your bank account, and I pulled $30,000 out of your bank account and said, yeah, we know there's a problem. We'll do our best to fix it. And it was just like you could have heard a pin drop in the room. And then David Kozak, turns his mic on, and he goes, we hear you, we see you, but it's easier said than done. What kind of response is that?
Then what do you do?
Yeah.
It's easier said than what needs to be said.
Yeah, that's literally
what's the easy thing you need to say that would then institute do?
So, like, is that just the BS line that they use every single time to just diffuse the situation and get the meeting to move forward so they can go to
I'm
Denny's?
struggling because it's like, I want to know if there's actual nefarious intent from the board's behalf.
That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm saying. If it has been so, and this was the big purpose of this podcast, is it's like, yes, we can do what, to a certain extent, we can try to educate people and use this podcast and this platform to like communicate to people like the problem, but we're not going to be able to do anything without 4 out of 7 votes. And so if anything hasn't been done in 30 years, Are all of these people strategically appointed? But what like you talked about nefariousness. Like, what is the purpose of nefarious unless there's foul play? And the only factor of foul play I can ever consider as valid would be insurance. There'd be nothing else out of that, because like crop damage, who wants that? That's costing Michigan money.
I mean, yeah, the insurance companies are going to be paying out in crop damage too. They're going to say kill more deer.
Yeah. So you've got crop damage claims, you have car accident claims. I mean, that's the only factor. And we'd love to hear from you guys. If you're thinking of something right now that we're not thinking of, if you were a board of you were on a board of 7 individuals and you were appointed by the governor, or even higher, go one level above the NRC. If you were the overlord in that realm, where could there be foul play? Is somebody getting paid off by the insurance company to specifically appoint people who won't make changes, and then you pretty much hold them all at ransom of, like, you're giving, like, are they getting enough? I don't know, because I never want, I believe there's good people in the world, and I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm pointing fingers and accusing 7 individuals of taking money, because that could be really, really off the hip. But it's like, you guys, all three of us saw the bullet points of things that were brought forward in June, right?
Yeah, they were awesome.
They were all awesome. And like 4 of them passed. I mean, the guy from the National Deer Association looked at me in the eyes and he goes, we brought forward probably one of the best proposals I've ever seen in my life brought forward to the NRC, and they failed us. That's what he said. He said they failed us as Michigan hunters. And not just hunters, citizens. You got a guy up there who's a farmer who's on the verge of tears because he's losing tens of thousands of dollars a year. What if he can't afford crop insurance? What if he's a guy out there that's not paying for crop insurance, and that's why he's saying he's losing $40,000? If that's one farmer, how much farmland does Michigan have? How many thousands of farmers are being affected by the same thing? And so it's like, as much as we can sit here and badger back and forth about like killing more, like, don't get me wrong, we can still do our own part. So don't let this discourage you. You can still go out in the woods and kill a couple does and donate it. And we're working with some killers right now to create way more donation opportunities, to where it's like, there's a designated trailer in your town that you can go drop a deer off in, and you if you don't need the meat. We're getting to that point, and I think there's going to be a massive culture shift and a massive awakening. But that's only a small. We can only do so much without like Rita said in the past. Like, at some point, it's going to come down to regulation.
Well, you can, as I said earlier, you can get a hold of these people directly, through the information that they post on the Michigan.gov. The other thing that we intend to do more of is just showing up to the meetings. If there's 25 people in the room that are speaking for the 700,000 hunters in Michigan or 500,000 hunters in Michigan, it's like, ooh.
Here's the thing, though. They told me the Higgins Lake meeting, there were 200 deer hunters and farmers and people at the meeting that were shouting and like a mob. He said they were like an angry mob that were going after this board of 7 individuals, and nothing changed.
I'm not gonna say too much.
Are you compromised?
Just because of affiliation purposes. But from the knowledge that I've been given, there has to be something going on, because
behind the scenes, you mean?
Yeah, because
that's obvious.
For the past, I'll just say roughly 20 years, nothing has changed. You probably know what I'm talking about, give or take. And with the amount of meetings, the amount of people that show up and say the same things we're saying.
4 people in that meeting said the exact same things we're saying, and that was just that meeting. 4 people sat down with the same proposals for 5 minutes.
There are thousands over the years, thousands of guys, groups, organizations, whatever it may be, that come up and they say the same thing. And that panel doesn't change. They're the ones making the decisions and nothing is changing. So we can, gosh, I don't know how to say this, but we can all keep saying all this stuff and trying to do this, but ultimately it's up to them. That's the problem. It's the panel and what's above.
Can we start a GoFundMe for the
So,
NRC?
That's all I'm going to say.
We just got to pay them more than the government's
That's all
paying
I'm
them.
going to say. I'm chiming back out.
Yeah, well, no, you're not. You're being oddly elusive and vague by affiliation. So it's like, okay, don't tell me which commissioner you're affiliated with, but you're saying like
It's not commissioner,
sure,
but there's affiliation.
okay.
So I know through my lifetime what goes on, what happens, why things don't happen, and it's for a reason.
Is the reason usually something sane? Is it something beneficial?
Is it I guess the real question would be, is it nefarious? Is there foul play? Yay or nay?
That I can't answer.
Right. And so yes, I'm tracking with what you're saying.
Yeah. It's just, it is what it is.
But okay, there's a reason.
There is 100% a reason. They're not going to tell us the reason.
I feel as if the fact that it is our resource, our deer,
we should have a
fish.
say.
Yeah, it's like, well, I think we should at least know.
Yeah.
Like, tell us straight up, what's the real deal? Is it better or worse than we think? Is there money involved? Is there not money involved? Does it come down to management or not? It's like, these are our resources. Don't withhold information about them from me, and don't lord them over me.
I think, in my eyes, the most disappointing thing is that it's been said over and over that, again, thousands of people come up, speak, and say the same thing. Okay, if the people are saying the same thing over and over however many years it is, why aren't we changing it? If the people want it, why aren't we changing it? Flat out.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah. So
you do the math on that.
Yeah.
This would be my follow-up question to all of that.
I got to be careful.
Yes. This would be my question. Why are these individuals appointed by the governor? And what can be done to work with grassroots organizations, lobbyists on we already know the NRC is not going to do jack. So at this point, hearing from them, is this where we take matters into our own hands and we go to the next level? And we
Poaching.
only read.
I love Reed needs humor. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
No, dude, I just get bored after a little bit. I need to laugh.
Okay, so we have to go to the next level, whether it's working with grassroots organizations or lobbyists, and figure out why these individuals are governor appointed. In my mind, these 7 individuals should show up on your ballot. If they can serve 4 years and 4 years and then be reelected, it's like
Who reelects them though?
that's what I want to know.
Can you hand me some nuts?
Man, I want
Hunter-
some nuts.
Hunter's got to get them. They're on
I
that
got
side.
'em.
Sweet and
Okay.
spicy.
So
I got your nuts, brother.
Hand me my nuts.
I want to know, because somebody said that, not Tom Baird, David Kozak. David Kozak is up for re-election when he said that.
Yeah, that first one's fine.
He said he's up for re-election.
Yeah.
I want to know when he's being reelected, what is that? What panel does he sit in front of? Who is he talking to?
It's Gretchen Whitmer, and she goes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Approved. I want to know. What does that look like? Because in my mind, going back to what I said, those individuals I think should be on the ballot. When we go to vote, whether it's in the primary or the federal ballot, whatever it may be, there needs to be a Natural Resource Commission, and there needs to be individuals that can run for the natural resource. It's like somebody runs as a drain commissioner for every freaking township. Why does the Natural Resource Commission have to be an appointed individual? Because I tell you what, you get enough people that care about what we're talking about here, people will start running for those positions and they will get elected. But why is it structured the way it is? And is it structured the way it is strategically?
No, it does make sense to me. If
Why?
you break it down. Like,
make it make sense.
The state of Michigan is not the deer management in the state of Michigan is not county by county. It is a state as a whole.
How many states is it county by county?
I would argue that actually.
What? That should be county
I
by
think
county?
Michigan is county by county.
Certain area. Or is it region? Is it UP?
I think it's
Northern
it's county by
regions,
county.
yeah.
Stop chewing. You should not be allowed to eat nuts while we're doing a podcast.
Don't tell me what to do with my nuts. When I think about like the governor being appointed, I don't know this for a fact, but it's very possible that a governor has jurisdiction over the management of the state insofar as the management over the deer herd, over the conservation.
I don't think it has anything to do with the governor. Look at the governors we've had. We've had Engler, we've had Schneider, we've had Granholm, we've had Whitmer. Like, I'm going to mute you so I can even think. They're not all crooked governors as far as I'm concerned. Like, if you would have told me and said, oh, that these individuals are Whitmer appointed for the last however many years, I'd believe it. But I knew Governor Engler. There's like, why weren't things done back in the early 2000s when he was around? Maybe there were, and we don't know about it. But it's the same thing with Schneider and Granholm. And like, Granholm was a dud. But this was all before our time. So it's like, do we need to start? We really need to start peeling back the layers of the onion here and breaking it down and figuring out how it's structured and the way it is structured. Because I think it goes past the governor.
I would agree.
Sorry.
You think
Are
it
you
goes
done
up to
chewing?
a federal level? Like, what do you mean past the federal? Like, what do you mean?
It's a
past the
higher
federal?
power.
DNR is federal.
It's a freaking conservation cabal. Like what? It's state by state. You know, if it was higher than that, then the whole Midwest would be under the same authority.
Somebody is advising who to appoint.
Sure.
You know,
but here's the thing: like,
who can run?
If you
like,
want,
if I want to go run for the Natural Resource Commission, can I? Who votes? Like that's where it's like, if you want to, like, there's a reason why those people are in those seats, and I want to know why.
Oh. Okay, here's a good question. If you could appoint your rock star NRC commission,
who do you think?
Ted Nugent.
Yeah, he's right on the wall.
Yep. And that's it. That's all we need.
Kid Rock.
Ted Nugent, Kid Rock. Donald Trump just cuz. But what I'm saying is, like, if it's just the insurance agencies that are saying, like, we'll just keep killing more deer, it's not working. They're going to have to re-strategize. You know? Like, if they're just saying pump out as many tags as cheap as possible, try to get more deer killed, the strategy is not working. And it's been an increasing problem for the last 15 years.
I guess the argument for that, like the insurance side, I know Caleb and I are both in that. if they're now proposing increasing the price of tags, what affiliation then do the insurance companies have?
It's a good point.
You know, if that truly was going on, which I could definitely see that being a possibility, why then would they go against them and increase that price?
I'm just looking up right now what auto insurance companies are actually like based in Michigan, because I'm wondering if my next question would be if it comes back to like insurance pressure and stuff, like how much horsepower are we working with? Is it enough horsepower to control somebody that controls 7 individuals? Like are the insurance companies controlling Whitmer, and Whitmer is then controlling the NRC based on that? Is it in levels? Is it in tiers? And this is something, like I said, we got to go back, and I want to do enough research on it, because I want to know if I decide tomorrow to go run for the NRC, can I do it, and how do I do it? There's a reason why all those guys on that board are over 50 years old.
Why don't we just call up John Walters and figure out how the heck he got on?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then, like, okay, so Dan Cook, how the heck did Dan Cook get appointed to the level that he did recently? All of a sudden, Gretchen Whitmer out of nowhere is like, I like my boy Dan over there. We have direct lines. We'll figure it out. I had a point and I lost it. And it'll come back.
Those nootropics aren't working.
I had a point. I lost it.
Got a full schedule this week. We're tired. Oh, I know where I was going with this. I think the biggest logical argument that could be made from the NRC on the comment being made of like, it's easier said than done. The DNR does do a very good job of deer biology and herd management, understanding how deer populations work.
If it's a matter of that, let's just get Chad Stewart or Chad Fedewa in this chair, and they'll tell us all about it then.
And that's where I'm going next. I want to have a deer wildlife biologist down here and just let them riff. Like, this is why it's harder than we think it is, or this is why we actually are having issues. I want to talk to people that know. Because for us, we're like, kill more deer. You know, and it's like, I don't think this is how it works, but it's like, okay, if you want to eliminate a coyote population, start killing more coyotes. Well, that produces more coyotes. It's like, is there a reason? I mean, nature loves a vacuum. So it's like, you start killing deer, more deer are going to come in. You know, if you want big bucks in your area, kill a lot of doe. Start creating a vacuum.
I heard John Walters actually say, because they did a whole report, Chad Fedewa did a whole report, and John Walters asked him point blank, he said, is our decreasing hunter population even putting the dent in our increasing deer population? And they said no.
So what's the latchkey? Like, what's the linchpin? Latchkey. Idiot. What's the linchpin on that? Why are we having such a big deer population increase? Habitat? Are they pushing into urban areas? I don't think so. I drive through St. John's and there's 140 doe packed into a field.
I mean, they're going to have to go, at some point, they're going to have to go somewhere. And that's where you start getting disease. You get these deer around suburban areas where they're getting constant they're getting pesticides in farmers' field, but they're getting bad pesticides and oil and water and like diseases. Like, it's going to be next level. We're going to be dealing with a zombie herd in
I was
a
going to
decade.
say we're going to have zombie deer really soon. But like, what's the next steps? I don't know, dude. This is where I really want to, as much as we can sit here and speculate, which is fun to do, but eventually we look like idiots because it's like we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to deer biology in this sense. We have an idea of like what's optimal and what we want to see, what needs to be done, but it's like, okay, it's not as easy, or it's easier said than done. Well, then what needs to be done And why is it so
You're
hard?
and you're telling that to a guy who killed 172 deer over 200 acres,
Yeah.
that it's easier said than done, and he's still losing money. So it's like, I'm just dumbfounded all the way around. And that's where it's like, we might be completely deplatformed if we go down this rabbit hole, but I want to know why. I want to know why.
You want to put your tinfoil hat on.
I think it's okay to want to know why, though. I think we have the right as the population of hunters to know why.
I'm just, at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I'm flat out discouraged because we do so much as far as like just research and understanding how all this works and just trying to beat it into people's heads of like, listen, there is a solution to this, but we can't do it alone. Even if you broke down the hunting population on a 60 on our board and 40 not, it's never going to change. You might put a little bit of a dent in it. If it genuinely comes back to 7 individuals, and you can't even get 7 individuals to pass a $1 state because it's a PR problem and they're worried about backlash.
It's probably going to be the most rational thing I've said all night. But at the end of the day, it's like our reasoning for these conversations to start with as a whole, it's purely based out of selfishness. We just want to kill bigger deer just as much as the next guy just wants to kill whatever deer he wants. Now, I think that my version of my selfishness is more honorable because it's better for the deer population as a whole, and I think better for the state as a whole. But at the end of the day, it's like we want bigger buck. Would you disagree with that?
I think that's the argument, though, Reed. I think ultimately that's the argument, is that we want to kill bigger deer, and we want to see bigger deer, right?
Right.
But we also want, this is the question I asked earlier, we also want 1 million new hunters to keep this going.
Mm-hmm.
There's layers to it. This, like what you just said, is an iceberg. The big bucks is literally the prize.
Yeah.
At the end, that's the trophy.
It's a trophy.
It's the trophy at the end of the race. Like,
not the average baseline hunter.
there are freaking layers to this, and I'm like, my forefront goal has nothing to do with big bucks. I mean, that's what's on the top because the big bucks is the driver. The way I see it is, big bucks do what? Big bucks attract more people, in state and out of state. So you're going to be getting, if you're in a suburb area and you know there's 3 160s walking behind your house and you watch a couple Cam Kane's videos, you're probably going to figure out how to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get fired up over this. You're not going to. And so bigger bucks draw more people to the sport, which is going to help the conservation aspect of things.
Yep.
And the bigger the bucks are, the more people understand herd management. They understand habitat management. They'll be like, okay, so I've got these big bucks in my area now. How can I keep them in my 75 acres? And so they're going to start doing research on that and be like, oh, okay, I need to do a better job with food plots, and I need to do a better job at balancing my herd out and doing hinge cut trees and habitat management in order to keep these deer here. So like you said, it is a selfish aspect at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But also, if it comes down to dollars, like follow the money. We're losing money to where they're having conversations about raising tag prices. If we had 300,000 out-of-state hunters coming into Michigan every year to hunt because we had top-notch, top-tier bucks, we wouldn't have to worry about that. They'd be paying $175 for a non-resident tag, no problem.
Yep.
My cousin comes up from Florida to deer hunt. He refuses to buy a non-resident tag because he has no interest in shooting a doe and then trying to figure out how to, like, it's just, or a buck. There's nothing worth chasing. It's a short timeline. If you had 4 days to hunt and you had to find a 150s right now, you're not going to do that. You got to hunt all season long to find something like that.
To maybe find something like that.
And then on the flip side, guys from Michigan can take a 5-day trip to Kansas or Iowa and kill a 218-inch deer. No problem. It's like, at the end of the day, like you said, it is it does come down to the bucks, but there are layers and layers and layers of it. I want to
Yeah.
see the next 2 generations be able to walk out their back door and just thrive.
Yeah.
I want to
Yep.
see I want to see
Absolutely.
people get healthy by eating more venison. Tell me you don't feel good after you eat venison.
Mm-hmm.
The protein content's double beef. I want to. There's like layers and there's layers. There's so many factors to it, but the factors to everything growing and getting better strictly comes back to being stewards. God entrusted us to be stewards with the resources He blessed us with, and right now, as a culture, as a state, we are not being good stewards of that.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. That's my soapbox.
Yeah.
We're failing what God has entrusted us with by being short-sighted.
I can get there.
Also, government corruption.
Government corruption. Yeah. Tinfoil hats. Pitchforks.
If we get John Walters in the chair here, right there, we just lock the door. Who do you? Who's paying you?
Where's the microphones? There are none.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But
Choose your broadhead.
But yeah, like, no, we don't have the answer. Do you want us to say it? No, we don't. I don't think anybody really does.
I don't
Doesn't
think
sound
we
like
ever
the board
will.
does. I think it's just going to turn into a pretty crazy. My wife is calling me. I think it's going to just turn into. There's going to be some big check. Something has to balance out. You can't just keep running like this.
If it was about money on our end, it would have been solved. There's enough big donors and stuff around the country and people that pour money into conservation. It could have been solved, which means we're working with a whole nother level, I think.
Yeah. Enough time has gone by with enough arguments that I think it's higher than that. I think it's definitely bigger.
At the end of the day, when that kind of money starts getting thrown around, my mind goes to 2 places, and it's big pharma and it's insurance companies. Those are, between, you've got BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, you've got all those massive corporations that control the most of the world's wealth, and the insurance companies and the insurance companies. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm saying what Reed brought up is a very, very valid
It's
argument.
valid.
Because if they're paying out billions of dollars of damage claims, not only property damage, we're talking medical.
Yep.
People die. So we got life insurance people who are paying out death claims. We've got health insurance companies that are paying out medical claims. We got auto insurance companies that are paying out physical damage claims and medical claims.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of layers. And when 1 in 50 people in Michigan who get behind the wheel hit a deer, what would you do if you own an insurance company and that was affecting your profit sharing and your bottom line? Whose ear would you get in? The one that controls the deer. And why would you want to take our harvest numbers from 300,000 a year down to 150 by limiting it to $1?
That's a good point. It's a really good point.
So with that, we'll let you guys marinate on that one for a little bit. If you have thoughts, comments, guys, we love this kind of stuff. This is the stuff that drives us. So please chime in on the comments, shoot us a message. We want to hear your opinion. We're not just we don't like getting stuck in our own echo chamber. If you have opposing views and like ideas on what can be done and stuff like that, please don't just sit on your hands, because we've come to a real crossroad here that is a big one. And at the end of the day, it's like we can do our part, but it's really not going to change much. And it really comes down to the top level. So like, what's the next step for all of that? Thanks again for tuning in. We drop episodes on Tuesdays. Make sure to check us out on all our social media sites, atasso.outfitters on Instagram. We've got Atasso Outfitters on YouTube, which you can watch the full-length videos of this podcast. The podcast can be found on any platforms that you consume your audio podcasts on. Our website is atassooutfitters.com. It's where our merchandise store is at, where you can get cool swag like these hats. Anyway, with that, we'll catch you guys on the next episode. See you later.